Thank you. Thank you so much, and I certainly couldn't do what I do, and the organisation couldn't do what we do without an amazing team. We're a small team of staff and amazing volunteers and an amazing community behind us. And I think I alluded earlier that I feel there's a change in the air. I feel there's a change in the wind. I feel that we've reached a point that epilepsy in WA is going to come out the shadows. It has to. You know, we know 1 in 10 will have a seizure, 1 in 25 will be diagnosed. 100,000 current West Australians will be diagnosed with epilepsy. So if you have epilepsy, you're absolutely not alone. And we know that a diagnosis of epilepsy impacts the whole family. I know there's a big interest in seizure alert technologies, and I'm going to talk about that now, but I also just wanted to acknowledge, because it is, of course, as Tanya said, we've got Walk for Epilepsy on at the moment, and I know we've got Stacey who's taking part, we've got Taylor who's taking part, we've got another crazy person who walked the Cape to Cape. That's another sort of feat similar to a half Ironman or swimming to Roto. So shout out to Charlene. And if there's anyone else who's taking part in Walk for Epilepsy that I've missed, oh yes, Ben's mum Jodie, which is, so Jodie's got Radar, the seizure alert dog. Hopefully the first seizure alert dog to go into schools in WA, and they were the ones that recently won the RSPCA award. So thank you, Jodie and family, who are always fixtures at our street appeal. So I'm going to talk about seizure alert devices. I know today we've been speaking about some really sensitive matters, and I know some of it may feel quite confronting, but what we're trying to do is empower people, because knowledge is power. Now, seizure alert devices are starting to come through that are actually quite incredible, some of the technologies, and I'll explain what I know about these devices. Now, bear in mind that it's always important that a seizure alert device is considered as one part of an overall risk management plan. Why do we say that? Because there hasn't been a lot of studies in terms of if people are using a seizure alert device, does that give them so much confidence that they maybe are a bit loose with the amount of sleep they're getting, or a bit loose with taking the medication. So we don't want a seizure alert device to almost be a false crutch. But what we do know is that seizure alert devices certainly may play a part in reducing injury and potentially death from seizures, because if a loved one or a carer is alerted, they can intervene if necessary. They can apply seizure first aid. They can call for help if necessary. And some of these devices also actually will contact people away from the home. So if you live alone, and I think Dr. Lorne was speaking about risk and saying one of the biggest risks is people who sleep alone. He joked about the fact that he can't sort of prescribe a sleeping partner. That's not easy to find some days. But seizure alert devices, they are pretty obtainable, and some of them quite well priced. And if you're on the NDIS and you fit the criteria and you have the right required proofs, so an OT assessment, documentation saying one is necessary, you may very well get a seizure alert device as part of your NDIS plan. Word has it that the MATs, which are around the $1,000 mark, might even be available via sort of a consumables code in your plan. Now we have, and this is another one that I think Ruby, our founder, the first female in the upper house of Parliament, for those of you who didn't hear me earlier today, would be proud of, is we have the only free seizure alert bed mat loan program in Australia. Now, any of our members can borrow a seizure alert bed mat for evaluation purposes and see if it's suits your need. And I see Veronica there. She trialled one the other day. It worked for her. She's chosen to buy one. So it just gives people an opportunity. And I know there was a lady that was talking about mats earlier. There is an opportunity for people to loan a mat from us to see if it works for you.
I'm also getting mine through the NDIS, who will be paying for it.
So did you have a question?
No, I said I've used that for a month only. What about today?
Oh,
It doesn't have seizures at night, just during the day.
so you found, so for you, so this is a bed mat. I'm supposed to be calling it a sensor. So John, I'm sorry, at Epi Assist in New South Wales, I need to stop calling it a mat. It's a sensor. It has two functions: for tonic-clonic convulsive seizures. If it detects one, it will sound an alarm.
It's loud. It's loud.
And it is a loud alarm, but just like everyone's epilepsy is different, so is their circumstances. So on a daily basis, we're taking phone calls from people, and I want to give you an idea of the kind of phone calls we get. So I get a phone call, and I live next to my sister, lucky lady to have, her family so close by. She wants a bed mat, but I'm not going to hear the alarm because I live in the house next door. Well, so we have to ask, well, is it sort of a duplex or is it a separate house? How far away is it? Because I know they sell a pager, and the pager goes up to about 200 metres. It does depend on the thickness of walls and that kind of thing. But for that person, if she speaks to John and Sue at Epi Assist, they would be able to advise her about the pager. But if the pager's not going to work for her, these actually can be attached to a LifeMinder device, and the LifeMinder can make phone calls. So the LifeMinder device, when attached to this via a special cord, can make phone calls to loved ones, and I think it's up to 5 loved ones. So technology is emerging and developing. A question like, I sleep in a queen bed. I live alone. I sleep in a queen bed and I move all over the bed. This is not going to work for me. Can I attach more than one together? Absolutely you can. You can attach 2 together in that queen bed. And if you live alone, you could attach it to a LifeMinder device, and as long as that LifeMinder device actually has money on the SIM so that it can make the phone call automatically, it can phone up to 5 people, and it will keep ringing until someone picks up, and it will tell them that you're in trouble and they need to check on you. And this is probably one of the, and sorry, John, I'm going to say one of the more basic ones, but it's basic because you don't need a subscription. You don't need internet if it's just if it's standalone, mum with a child who suffers nighttime tonic-clonic seizures. This might suit their needs, but it's important that they look at all the different options. We're not here to tell people what is the right device for them. We're here as a community service to let people know what their options are, and then they can make an informed decision, preferably after chatting to their medical team about what device might work best for them. And certainly the fact that they can loan a seizure alert bed mat from us free of charge is something that we are really proud of. When Dr. Thanasis Gaitatsis spoke earlier today, I know he spoke about the death in a Cork hospital of the mother and the baby, and it's just absolutely terrible what happened. Now, the independent review of that case has suggested, amongst other recommendations, that seizure alert technology devices should be considered. And more, there's research emerging that potentially seizure alert devices may play a role in helping to reduce death rates. But research is limited, and bear in mind what I said about we don't know what level of, if someone's feeling secure that they've got an empathic embrace on, is there a chance that they might then go a bit easy on other risk reduction measures? So it's important, and you'll see we were always very careful the way we word things around seizure alert technology, one part of an overall risk reduction strategy. The night watch. Who's heard of the night watch? Just about to get it. Potentially one of the most exciting recent advancements is the night watch. And you hear about this device a lot from neurologists in Europe. We have a free webinar on the night watch and many other devices. Because we're unfunded and have limited staff, limited resources, we have to be creative about the way, how can we get the message out to the most people? So we spoke to the distributor of the night watch. He is NDIS registered. His name's Paul. He's in Victoria. Paul does, in certain circumstances, loan the night watch out free of charge. The night watch, as a trial to see if you then go on to buy, the night watch is monitoring movement. It's also monitoring heart rate. It is a nighttime only device. Now, different devices will have had different testing levels. Something like the night watch, we know in another country is a registered medical device. We know that they've done a lot of testing and it appears that they will detect tonic-clonic seizures at a rate of 96%. And you've all got the seizure alert fact sheet. The night watch also says that it will detect certain other seizure types. Of course, no device can say 100% of the time, but certainly the night watch is one to consider. Now, the night watch has such clever technology that if you get up in the night to raid the fridge or to go to the toilet, it senses you've got up. Because if you were tracking your heart rate and you ran to get a cookie, it would alarm because it would see the surge in your heart rate and it would think, well, perhaps potentially that's a tonic-clonic seizure. But actually, no, it sensed you've got up, you've got out of bed, and it gives you time to go and get that cookie. Then when you lie back down, it turns back on that perimeter. And I learned yesterday that it doesn't stop recording the heart rate, but it stops using that heart rate to signal that a seizure is occurring. So it would then only be relying on a movement sensor. But certainly this device is one of the ones worth considering, worth discussing with your neurologist. The empathic embrace, and I will repeat this again, and I'm sorry if it's a bit like Groundhog Day, but I have a niece who had a stroke. She had a stroke when she was 11, a very severe stroke. She's been left with seizures amongst many other challenges. But like all the wonderful warriors that we've spoken to today, she sees life, and she makes lemonade out of the lemons, and sometimes that's all you can do. But one thing she really wishes is that she didn't have seizures. Now, one thing I felt I could do for her is help with her independence and hopefully help give a degree of peace of mind to my sister and my mum. I bought her an empathic embrace. Now, which device is right for you is a very individual thing. I'm not an OT, I'm not a clinician. Why did I choose this? Because I needed a GPS. I wanted to know that if she went on the bus, that we would be told where she is when she had that tonic-clonic seizure that it detected. I also wanted it to be able to ring several people. My mum doesn't have apps or a smartphone, so I wanted it to be a simple process for my mum. I wanted the phone to ring and her to pick it up. And so for me, in that unique situation, this I felt was the right device. It can be worn day and night, but of course it does need charging. So when do you charge it? So you charge it at a low risk time. And so that's the empathic embrace. So it's, people sometimes think it's tracking heart rate. It is not. It is tracking the movement. It's looking for movement, looking for unusual movement. So it may false alarm when you're brushing your teeth. It may false alarm when you're chopping vegetables, but there's a quick and easy way to cancel that false alarm if it happens before it sends a notification. For my niece, we found that a bit of a struggle because she can't move one of her arms. So of course she can't pick up her arm to cancel. So each individual person, circumstance, and the type of device you need will be very different, as every case of epilepsy is different. So what we're trying to do is just let you know what's available so you can hopefully make a more informed decision. So in Europe, we've got lovely Tim, and Tim was a high-earning techie guy driving around in a very expensive car with a son with absent seizures. And Tim's a really lovely guy. And one day he just had an epiphany and he gave up work and he decided that he was going to create a device that could pick up his son's absent seizure and notify the teacher. And he did this because his son looked at him and said, "Dad, they think I'm naughty. I'm not naughty, I'm having seizures." And this is the Epi Hunter. Now, I got in contact with Tim a few days ago and I said, "Hey, Tim, I know you've got a big hospital, a children's hospital in America that has been trialling it, and I know you'll have some data. Can I have it early?" And he said, "No." He's presenting at a symposium and they'll be officially released, and we will share on Facebook when the results are officially released. But it does sound like the results are quite pleasing. Bear in mind, not every device can pick up 100% of seizures, but the fact that a student can wear this in class. And Jodie, am I going to put you on the spot if I ask you? I might just ask Jodie to jump up. So Jodie's Ben has absent seizures at school as well as other seizure types, and I think Jodie was I think you were the first family in WA to have an Epi Hunter, and so I was obviously interested. Jodie, how have you found the Epi Hunter? And I'd love her to share if you're sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. So when we initially trialled it, we had the leather band, but Ben has got autism and couldn't handle that thin band on his head. So what's really good about the Epi Hunter is you can actually take the little sensors off, and we spoke to Tim about it. You can actually, because they're only Velcroed on, so you can actually take them off and attach them to something else. So Ben actually has his on one of those sports headbands. But you can also put them inside caps. So if you work outside all day, you can actually have it in your hat and it's sensing it. And then you have the little white sensor piece that actually just goes above your left ear. It's been life-changing. We went from having the teachers ringing us all the time saying, "Oh, well, I'm worried about Ben, he's doing something a bit abnormal," to the teachers actually feeling confident. Because what happens is when it picks up an absent seizure, it actually has the camera light on the back of a smartphone that actually comes as part of the package, and that lights up. So it lets the teacher know he's having an absent seizure, and the app times it so that
Records it so you can share it with your neurologist.
So we've actually contacted Ben's neurologist and said, "Here's the login details," and she's actually gone in for his last review, seen how many seizures he's had, seen the time of day, how long they've gone for, so that she's actually got that information. Yeah.
Is he on medication, your son?
He's on 3 different types of medication.
So by having that, how's it changed your life as his mum?
So it's changed my life. So we moved from Perth down to near Albany. So I can be at work at Albany and I can be checking the Epi Hunter app on my phone to see how he's going at school. The other day, because I'm actually on holidays for 2 weeks, the other day Ben was a bit off before he went to school, and I thought I'll just see how he's going. And when I logged in, I saw he had 30-second absent seizure at school. So from my point of view, I can also prepare myself for the fact that I might get that phone call from school to say, "Look, he's really, off," or I know when I pick him up, he gets very emotional if he's had lots of absent seizures. I know when I pick him up from school to be prepared for a very emotional little boy who's going to need lots of hugs and reassurance, and I can do that. It also means that we can train Radar specifically and pick up on what he's doing when Ben's having a seizure, because Ben doesn't know his triggers. We haven't identified anything that signals he's going to have a seizure. He just does it. So it's, from our point of view, it's been amazing. And it's given teachers a lot of confidence to empower them as well. So it's amazing.
Sorry, just on that, it also, once it alerts the teacher then can repeat it, rather than child sitting there have missed a section or a question.
Yeah.
The teacher and students around him can then repeat it and understand that he just sort of tuned out for a few seconds and repeat the question on the child.
It also lets the kids
There's a load of other devices to my game. I just don't want you. Thank you.
when he gets absent seizures, so it lets them know that he's not so good as well, and they can also alert the teacher, and if it goes on for too long, they have all been trained what to do for Ben as well. So it's been really good.
Can I just ask about your seizure dog?
Yes.
Why did you go about?
What I might do is I might talk to you about afterwards because it's a long process, but I will come and grab me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I noticed that Jodie's got Superwoman earrings, and her family, including her Wonder Woman, and her mum, certainly are and are big supporters of Epilepsy WA and always willing to speak and share their story. And speaking and sharing stories is just such an important part of what we're trying to facilitate here at Epilepsy WA, because you're not alone, and also that information sharing can make such a difference to people. I've developed a real passion for seizure alert technology, and I get incredibly excited when I hear something new or a new advancement. And the other day, a mum, and she was a young mum, she was early 20s, she comes in with a little baby. The baby had been going into status. As a young mum, she was familiar with administering midazolam to a little baby in arms, and she came in and said, the Children's Hospital, they said that you've got seizure alert devices. Do you have anything that could suit my little baby? And bearing in mind that we can't do assistive technology assessments, we're totally unfunded, but we do the best we can to provide information to people that may help them. So I was able to say, look, here's our whole range, here's our fact sheet, we've got our webinars. And there's this little device, which is an owlet, which is monitoring blood oxygen and heart rate. Now, in theory, and we've certainly had positive feedback, that if something's monitoring blood oxygen and heart rate, it could notify loved ones that a seizure occurring, or certain types of seizures, certain, your generalised tonic-clonic, when you would expect quite a big change in the heart rate. So after helping the mum try on the little owlet, she read through and went off and spoke to her doctor, and I believe she ended up buying an owlet. Then a few days ago I heard, because owlets, I had to say to the mum, look, it only go up to 18 months. A few days ago I heard the owlet now goes up to 5 years. So we've updated the seizure alert fact sheet. You can buy, if you've got the modern version of the owlet base, you can actually get a sock standalone that goes up to 5 years, or if you buy the new version, it comes with the changeable socks, the one for the newborn, this size, and then also the size that goes up to 5 years. And that's potentially life changing. And we hear stories of parents who are still sleeping with their adult children, and then they get a seizure alert device, and they're both able to have a bit of independence, and that can be emotionally priceless, and from a well-being point of view, priceless. We do hear that sometimes people may use more than one seizure alert device, and there is certainly a role to play of baby monitors, because sometimes, for example, if you lived in a big house, you might, in addition to a mat, you might even use a baby monitor to amplify the sound or to pick up any seizure vocalizations. So things like baby monitors, not instead of, but as something in addition to, or used in conjunction with, may have a role to play in that one part of an overall risk reduction strategy. I spoke earlier about the, I'll just grab it, sorry.
What about other things like other things
we'll definitely get on to that. So your smartwatches and your apps and your phones and your... I was speaking earlier about the Life Minder. This is a Life Minder. So this Life Minder, when in a special dock with a special cord, plugged into an MFit bed mat, sorry John, bed sensor, would ring loved ones away from your house and keep ringing until someone picks up, and would ring up to five people. And you just need to make sure you always have money on the SIM, of course. Now this Life Minder is a standalone device. It's actually a full sensor. So some people will experience auras before they have a seizure. And if you're someone who experiences an aura before you have a seizure, you could potentially use something like this to press a button, and that button will ring your loved ones and say, Emma needs help. Does the empathic embrace have that function? I've asked them, no, it doesn't have that function. So each different device has the intricacies and has different functions. Some may need internet, some may need a subscription. But what we're just trying to do is raise awareness of what's available. Sammy camera. I saw it and I thought, oh, it's just like a baby monitor. But then we recorded a webinar on the Sammy camera, and it's looking for unusual movement that might signal a seizure. It's also available from Paul at Seizure Alert Australia, who also actually sells the night watch and some other devices too, and things like the anti-suffocation pillow. Now, this actually not only is looking for abnormal movements that might indicate a convulsive seizure, but also it's recording the data onto a memory card, and the sound and picture clarity is heightened. So you can then take that footage from the memory card to show your neurologist. Things like the night watch also acts as a seizure diary. You're getting a lot of data. Things like the Epi Hunter, you're getting a lot of data. You're getting data from up here, but you're also getting data from the recording on the phone. We had a phone call the other day from a young lady who was asking at her workplace, and it's just so good to hear of workplaces being supportive, because unfortunately, a lot of our calls are the opposite, but this is a supportive workplace, which is absolutely wonderful. She sometimes experiences absence seizures. Is there a device that she could sit at the reception desk and notify her colleagues that she's having an absence seizure? But the tricky thing was that the colleagues don't sit near enough to the reception desk to see if a light switches on the phone. So I was thinking, the Epi Hunter's relying on, the teacher at the front of the classroom. That's what it was designed for, to notice that light switching on. So who did I ring? I think I skipped the Australian distributor. Sorry, Paul. And I actually think I sent a message to Tim in Europe, and I said, "Hey, Tim," and he said, "Yeah, there's been an alarm. An alarm can sound." So in that situation, potentially, if it was set up to alarm as well as the light, in that situation, it might be of assistance. So everyone's circumstance is very different. And when you start exploring the options available and the options that are coming through, it's actually very exciting. There's another mat there which actually has an inbuilt microphone as well. There are apps on watches, and we certainly do anecdotally get some really positive feedback about some of the apps on watches. One thing you do need to be very mindful of is devices like the Empathica Embrace and the Night Watch have had, and the bed mat have had a lot of testing, and there's freely available data. Some of them, like the Night Watch and also the Empathica Embrace, actually have research articles that have been published in neurology magazines. But when you're moving on to apps, they may not have had anywhere near the level of testing and or anywhere near the level of data. Do they assist some people? Absolutely. So we do list them on our Seizure Alert fact sheet, which we're continually updating. But just bear in mind that things like the Empathica Embrace, the Night Watch, the bed mat are registered medical devices in certain countries. And certainly from an NDIS perspective, I would think without being an NDIS NDIS expert, you might have more chance of getting funding if it's got a lot of research and data backing it up. But certainly things like the latest Apple Watch is also doing blood oxygen. But how that then translates to an alarm sounding is the issue. So I've spoken to parents who've said, I monitor using the smartwatch, and smartwatches have a big role to play in well-being for people with complex needs and sort of independence. But if an alarm's not being sounded, you're only knowing after the event. You can feed that back to your neurologist, but in some circumstance, if you have an additional app, there may be that a caregiver's notified, and we do list the apps we know of, but just do your due diligence when you're reading through, chat to your doctor. And the last device I just wanted to mention was the Pulse Guardian, and it's this small, and it's a little silicone ring, and this supersedes the Pulse Guard. So the Pulse Guard was just tracking heart rate. It was created by a family, another clever family who had a son with Dravet syndrome, and the Pulse Guard was tracking heart rate, alerting people if the heart rate went high or too low. It relied on person having their first night wearing the Pulse Guard seizure free. That would then set the perimeters of at what point does it alarm, at what heart rate, how high, how low. They've now replaced it with Pulse Guardian. This is a blood oxygen and heart rate monitor used for sleep apnea. You can buy these off Google or Amazon. However, to use it as a seizure alert device, you need to buy a tablet and also download certain software and get certain support from the company. Because of COVID, they're not selling it in a single lot. You have to source the items separately. But nevertheless, certainly an exciting consideration, worth considering. And it's just really that's all we can do. Raise awareness of what's available, what the price points are, what the functions are, what they look like, give people an opportunity to touch and feel and ask questions. But it's all listed. It's on everyone's chair. When you arrive today, should have been a seizure alert fact sheet. We've got the largest display of seizure alert technologies in the whole of Australia, and I'm really proud that we do for an totally unfunded organisation. I'm really proud, especially as more and more data is coming through that potentially seizure alert devices as one part of an overall risk reduction strategy have an important role to play. Does anyone have any questions? Joe. Thank you. Look, I would, if people are comfortable and wanting to write to your local MP. We are one of only two unfunded state-based associations in the whole of Australia. Every epilepsy association gets funding from the state government apart from us and one other. We've been going since 1963. We get a huge number of telephone calls, we get a huge number of referrals, we get a huge number of walk-ins. The reality is that some people are arriving to closed doors, and that's not okay, but we need funding to be able to provide those services that are so desperately needed. And I made a promise to a bereaved mum, and we implemented it the day I made the promise, is that every single person that contacts us gets emailed information about risk reduction and SUDEP. And it's just so important. And things like care plans, mental health supports, bearing in mind that 1 in 2 people will have depression, and bearing in mind that a diagnosis of epilepsy affects the whole family, and that parents will often get PTSD. They say the rate may be as high as 1 in 4. So I'm actually proud that we are doing that, and we are always willing to have open conversations with you about risk and we are staying as up to date as possible on this very important topic. And it's not to scare you, it's to empower you. I hope that knowledge is power, and that if we can come together as a community, not only can we bring epilepsy out of the shadows in WA, but let's do something about the injury rates and also the death rates.
But Emma, you said also that you can do a direct debit thing to Epilepsy WA with a small donation.
Oh, you're kind, Veronica. Yes, so we are a tax deductible charity. So any donations are greatly appreciated. We rely on donations solely with some training income as well. We do try and get grants. We did apply to telethon again. We are keeping fingers and toes crossed to see if we will, get some money from telethon. But epilepsy, the World Health Organization says it's the most stigmatized, misunderstood, under-resourced of all health conditions. And, that's certainly the case in WA, but I hope a new day is coming. Joe. Yes, we are. So Connect Groups, who are sort of the peak body in support groups, sort of best practice. I actually spoke to their CEO Antonella yesterday, and we certainly have connected with them. Our support groups are on, half of them are on hold at the moment, and Veronica, who was here earlier today, she'd been going to the same support group for over a decade. And I'm really sad that her support group is no longer running. It has been paused, but if we can just get the funding in place, we'll be able to bring those support groups back up. They're so crucial. And then hopefully we can actually extend our support groups. And we do have a monthly support group as well, online for those who can't reach the locations. And the Joondalup support group has got the biggest number of young people at any support group, I think, in the whole of Australia around epilepsy. And I know, Ben, you've gone before, and it's incredible. And I think the pizza helps. I do think the pizza helps, and it's just got a beautiful atmosphere, and it's people of all ages, but there is quite a few young people just coming together to share their stories, to share their experiences. And if the circumstance was different, I would like to see these groups absolutely everywhere. But hopefully that day will come. So thanks everyone, and thank you for coming today. We really appreciate your attendance. We are always available to talk and for information. I wanted to acknowledge Tina. So Tina, thank you. So Tina tirelessly volunteered for our Purple Walk. She has volunteered today and just done such a sterling, amazing job, and we really appreciate you being part of our community. And there's just a small token of our appreciation to you.